Welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering people through storytelling and education. This week, we're going to be catching up with Desiree Siegfried. We had her on a long time ago. Her husband came on last year. You guys know her as the Bachelorette. But we're just catching up on life, on motherhood. She has 2 little boys, and I ask her some questions about when you know you're done having kids. She and I had a conversation previous to the podcast over this, so it wasn't just like a random question because that could be a sensitive subject to people. But we talk about that. We just talk about the hardships of motherhood. We talk about how every kid is different, and then the joys of parenting as well. And so it's just always so much fun chatting with her and catching up. And I know you guys will enjoy the interview. If you are listening, make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast. There's going to be some changes coming, and it's the best way to stay up to date on everything that's going to be going on. I'm super excited to share with you guys everything that's to come. Make sure that you leave us a review. That's the best way to spread the podcast or to share it. Also, join our Facebook group, Miraculous Mamas by Elizabeth Joy, and the Instagram. You'll be able to stay up to date on all the podcast changes and everything there as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the interview. All right, everyone, I have Desiree Siegfried here, and I love chatting with her. I met her a few years ago on podcasting, and then I went on her podcast, and now she's back on this one. And I'm super excited to have her because she is just such a joy to talk to, and just has just this amazing energy and light about her. Oh. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. It's always so much fun to chat with you.
Well, I feel like it's fun, like
talk about it.
Right. And it's like, I feel like for me too, it's just like fun talking to people in similar seasons of life. And then like you have a podcast as well. And I don't know. I feel like I've met so many people podcasting that I'm like, oh, I feel like we'd be friends in real life.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's fun because it's like, otherwise, you don't connect with people as like the podcast is such a great way to truly connect with others.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because you're just like sitting down having a conversation. And I feel like in motherhood, how often do you get to do that? Like even with your friends?
Yeah, like hardly ever.
Mm-hmm. So you guys, if I remember correctly, you recently moved.
Yeah, so we recently moved. We were in Portland, and so we moved 30 minutes outside just to get some space, some fresh air.
Yeah.
And, get the boys closer to family. So
how has that been? How's that transition been?
It's been great. Honestly, we lucked out. We found kind of like our forever place. And so we just plan on putting down roots, which is like new for me. I moved so much growing up and in my 20s that like, before even getting moving each place that we moved, Chris is always like, okay, are you going to get antsy? Are you going to want to move? But no, I'm so excited to just put down roots for the boys. I think because I didn't have that, it's more important for me to have it for the boys. And like, I don't know, it's been so great. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is nice. I can relate to that though. I didn't move a lot growing up, but in my 20s, I think one time I had realized I had lived in Vegas for like 11 years and I had moved at least 8 times like during that time. Yeah. Cause like my lease would be up. And so I'd go find a new place to live and it was just hopping around all the time. And I definitely crave those roots now. Like we bought a house here and we've lived in it since we got married. So like almost 2.5 years. And we've gone back and forth with like the market being the way it is. Like, should we sell the house? Cause we would make a profit on it now. Cause we've put a lot of work into it, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so comfortable here. Like it's a great house. But I mean, we're still haven't decided what we're going to do yet, but I feel you on the like craving roots. Cause that was a question that my husband had about me. Cause I traveled and did all these things. He's like, are you going to be able to quote unquote, like settle down?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, yeah, I think so. I feel like I'm ready for that in my life. Cause I've kind of been all over and flighty. And now I'm ready to be like, okay, like this is where we can have our garden and where we can have like set everything up.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's just so crazy. I think, the flightiness, like everything you just said was totally me. Even in my 20s, it was like moving every year. And I thrived off like change, kind of, it always felt like a fresh start. But there's just something special about creating memories that, I don't know, in the same space, in the same location, and watching the boys grow in that is really cool to see. And like you said, a garden. I mean, I'm not just going to up and leave the garden or all of the renovations we did. So it's so cool. It feels good. It feels good.
And whenever you get that like flightiness, it's like go on a little vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, if you haven't moved with kids yet, like I never, ever, ever want to do it again. It's so much work.
I can't imagine, because I feel like we just have a 9-month-old. And the other day I was thinking, how does she have so much stuff? Because I put all the clothes she grows out of like into bins because we want we want to have more kids. And I'm like, I don't know if we'll have another girl or what. So I want to keep it all. And we have like 5 bins of stuff because they grow so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like her DockATot, her basket, like all the things she doesn't fit in anymore, but we're not going to rebuy.
No.
So we like
keep it all.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, we have almost like a room full of baby stuff that is just going to be here until we have like another baby. Like I already like can't wait till we're done and the kids are a little bit older so we can just like purge all that stuff.
Get rid of stuff. Oh my gosh. I know. After Xander, I kind of was like giving away everything because I was like, I think we're done. So let's just start like clearing house and get rid of all the big stuff, because the babies, I feel like it's all the big stuff, you know, it's not until they're like, well, now my boys, 2 and 4, and it's like all these little cars, all the Legos. And I'm like, that would be insane to move. But the big stuff that takes up so much space is when they're babies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how painful is it to step on a Hot Wheel or a Lego?
Luckily I haven't had too many of them, but that's like Chris's, he cannot stand the little Legos. Because of that, stepping on. But for me, my boys, both of them, when they were like 18 months to like 2.5, both of them have given me black eyes because of not just not being aware of where they're throwing their cars. And we're just like playing and I'll get like a black eye. Once it was Asher, he was in the bathtub and I'm like this close to him, like me to the screen. And he just chucked it and it totally like got my eye bone. But anyways, yeah. Chris is always laughing because somehow I'm always getting hurt by them.
Yeah. You're like the joys of parenting. I'm sure it's like a completely different phase you're in when they're like throwing this stuff. And Jovi's in this phase where she's like hitting and scratching, just like even while she's nursing, she's just like throwing her hand in my face. And I always take her hand and I'm like, gentle, and we've been going over body parts and I was showing her eyes and then she was like poking me in the eyes and I'm like, okay, gentle. Like, cause I know she's not intentionally trying to, she's like 9 months. She's not like trying to beat me up, but there's days where I'm like, right. There's days I'm like, you just got like a handful of hair and scratched my face. And I'm like, what is this? Nobody warns you for those parts of motherhood. It's like, oh, like they're in such a fun phase. And I'm like, it is a really fun phase. But there's also times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I hate it. Like when I get triggered by her like sharp nails. And I'll like trim them and file them. And then like 5 minutes later, she scratches me. And I'm like, how is this possible?
Oh my gosh. Their nails. It's hard to keep up with the nails. Yeah. And like the boys are so dirty that there's always like dirt in their nails. I'm like, so gross.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick break from this episode so I can share with you guys again about my favorite pair of shorts that I have found, because summer is here. And finding shorts that fit and are comfortable is borderline impossible. And luckily, I found the Clamberista shorts from Title IX. They are made out of super stretchy, abrasion-resistant fabric. They're basically indestructible. And you know that as a mom, you need that. And up until now, I feel like it was hard making shorts choices. It's like, do I get these ones that are stretchy or comfortable or actually like cover part of my leg? It's so hard finding shorts. But the Title IX Clamberista shorts, they're made for you with the abrasion resistant fabric. And that no matter what you get into for the day, they go along with it. You can have a super cute, comfortable outfit. You can go hiking. No matter what you're going to do, they fit the occasion. And Title IX designs and sells performance outdoor gear and apparel for women on the move like us who are busy chasing our children, trying to get some outdoor time, and always looking for our next adventure. Right now, Title IX is offering the listeners $10 off and free shipping on orders over $100 when you visit Title9.com/mamas. Go to Title9.com/mamas for $10 off and free shipping on your order over $100. That's TITLENINE.com/mamas. Now back to the episode. So how is it, I guess, having a house full of boys? Is like the bathroom situation as bad as I picture it?
Oh my gosh, it's chaos right now. I don't know what happened. I think it's just because it's summertime right now, and Asher, he's 4.5, and he was very used to like preschool and structure. And I think, to be honest, I think it's the lack of structure now that he's just like all over the place and not listening. He's just not being good, you know? And they're just chaotic because they're now at an age where they're thriving off each other. So their energy is out of control. Like, I always knew boys had more energy, but like, oh my gosh, the energy is like so much that they don't know what to do with it. Like, sometimes I'm like, Asher's just like going all over the place with his body just to get the energy out. And it's just interesting to watch. But yeah, we're also running into the bathroom situation now. I thought we were good because he's been, potty trained for a few years now. And I guess it's only been like maybe a year where he's standing up though. And I have cleaned around the toilet, in the corner of the toilet.
Yeah.
Like the back corner, because he's peeing just like it's like a sprinkler went off.
Yeah.
And I like don't know what to do. I don't know what to do because I literally am like disinfecting it every single day. And I was like, Asher, like, you got to aim, dude. You got to. I don't even know how he got it where it is.
Right.
And I've always heard of this, but I thought we were in the clear because he had never had any issues. And now I'm like, oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm. It's
really gross.
Right. You just like add that to your resume, like, of stuff you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Every day. Oh my gosh. It's so gross. And then it's even TMI. And then it's like, oh, okay, he doesn't let it like dribble off. And then as he walks to like, it's like dripping. I'm like, oh gosh. Oh,
like, so it's just everywhere in the bathroom.
It's everywhere. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like it'd be so
maybe
hard.
I'll just have him pee like in the shower because no, but then he'll never learn how to pee in the toilet. But
Eventually he will.
Eventually, yeah. Since we live now a little bit out in the country, he loves to go,
outside,
like Dad, outside behind a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but even then he's not the greatest at it. So then it's everywhere.
What is it with guys and peeing outside? Because my husband will just be like working outside in the yard and like pee outside. I'm like, you can just come inside and do that. Like, what? Why are you just peeing outside?
Yeah. No, how about this? Chris will come downstairs because he works at home, and he'll come downstairs, go out the back door, and pee. Yeah, I'm like, there's a bathroom inside, but he's like, I think there's just something so primal and like free that I don't know. it's funny and it's bizarre at the same time.
I know. The things that you learn, I feel like, in marriage and parenthood.
Yeah, seriously.
Because like, how weird would that be if you're like just came downstairs from working and you walked out back and just squatted?
Oh my God. He'd be like, what are you doing? Yeah. It's just like so different for guys. I mean, literally I don't know. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, they'll just literally drop their pants. All of the boys. I'm just going to have a house full of like boys, men, like peeing everywhere around the house or peeing on plants. I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
And Asher hasn't understood, like, you go behind a tree.
Right.
So like, he's just out in the driveway. He's like out in the driveway. He's like, pulls his pants down and then, he's still learning. So it's like, he's like, in that position to like, it's so funny. And then I'm just like, okay, hopefully no one's watching.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, you just have to worry about then when you're in places where they're not supposed to pee. Like you're at the park or something and your kid's just peeing on a tree and you're like, hey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We had friends. We have friends. Their boys were just like a year older. So they were already doing this before my boys were. And literally they would like, I remember they came over, they got out of the car and one of them just dropped his drawers and started peeing. I was like, oh, hi to you too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They literally, there's just like no self-awareness around that. They're like, oh, outdoors, pee. That's it.
I know. It's a riot. It's so funny.
So you have this house full of guys. Do you plan on having any more children? I know that question can be like, well, but we chatted about it a little bit before. Yeah. So where are you guys at? Because I interviewed your husband last year and he was saying no. And then you kind of said no. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, we don't plan for anymore, if that makes sense. Like if it happens, it happens and we would be okay with it, but we don't plan to try for anymore. Mm-hmm. We're very content in our family as a whole. And, I don't know. We both are we're both also very busy with what we do for work, both of us. And so we don't want to, we know our capacity. I think that's the key. Like he knows his capacity and I know my capacity. And then we know our capacity as like parents and we have hit our capacity. So, we know like for, harmony and for us to just stay as we are is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are going to take a quick break so I can talk about a service that has made my life better because dinner time can be chaotic. I feel like by the end of the day, I have decision fatigue. I've made so many decisions and the last thing I want to think about is what am I going to make for dinner? So with Freshly, it is easy. Their chefs take care of me a few nights a week and take the pressure off by making delicious, nutrient-packed meals delivered fresh to your door with no cooking required. Grocery shopping and cooking can be a pain. I still feel like I'm trying to find the best way to get in and out of a store with a kid. It's like just a whole new world. You're so used to running in and out, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I have to sanitize the cart and put her in it and make sure that there's things to distract her while we're shopping. Lately she's been like screaming at the end of our grocery, like at the end of it. So I'm like always trying to run out of the store. So it's really nice to have Freshly to be able to not think about dinner and not have to worry about running to the grocery store. And right now, the listeners can try Freshly for just $16 per meal. You can stop searching the internet for healthy food near me every night and start living life freshly. The meals are always delivered fresh, never frozen. They're ready to heat and enjoy in 3 minutes. And with new meals added each week, Freshly brings the convenience of chef-made, nutritious design classics right to your kitchen. Right now, Freshly is offering the listeners $40 off your first 2 orders when you go to freshly.com/mamas. Stop stressing out at dinner. Go to freshly.com/mamas for $40 off your 2 orders. That's freshly.com/mamas for $40 off your first 2 orders. Now back to the episode. I know a lot of people ask, like, how do you know when you're done with your family or done having kids? And was it just kind of, like you said, the capacity factor that like really spoke to you guys?
I think it's the capacity of like, your limits of like sleep, lack of sleep. I mean, I don't think I could go back into the 2 years of not sleeping because Xander was so difficult, and he still, wakes up probably once a night, and we tried everything. And so it was just, it's difficult for me because, as the mom, you are most of the time taking more of the responsibility with the little ones, because honestly, for the past year, Xander just wants me at night. And so it was just very difficult. And then it's hard to run a business, and it's hard to pursue anything that also makes me feel complete, because I'm all about wholeness, and you can have balance in both life of motherhood and like doing what you feel you're called to do. And I just know that right now I'm able to feel whole in both areas of life. And I don't want to kind of go back to where I just felt a little, uneasy and overwhelmed. And then honestly, Chris, the same too. Like, he knows that he loves the 2 boys. And although I think he would like a girl, it's just, it would be hard for us right now. I mean, Xander's 2.5. I don't know. It could change, actually. It could change when Xander's a little older and kind of a little more independent.
But like you said too, like, I guess for me, it's different because like I'm in my mid-30s, so I feel like we just started having kids, and we'd like to have 4 if possible. We'll play it by ear. I come from like a huge family. My siblings have big like everyone has big families. So like I said, like if possible, we will play it one at a time and by ear, subject to change. So I feel like I don't really have a choice. Like I need to like, we need to kind of have them back to back or within a couple years of each other. But being in the phase that I'm in now, I can't imagine like waiting a few years and then going back. Like I almost feel like, okay, if I'm not going to sleep, I just want to not sleep for the next 5 years and then be able to sleep again. Cause like I'm dying right now.
No, I think it's so much easier. It's so much easier to probably, just to like, baby stage, like having Xander felt easy because Asher was only 2 and we still had all the things. Asher was a great sleeper, and it seemed like, perfect and easy. But then the past 2 years of just like not sleeping, and then getting into this phase now with both of them where, Asher's in a phase of like, you have to really be on them with like learning their boundaries, learning, how to listen, so it causes, it causes stress. And I also always say though, too, like, marriage, I have to get this right. Marriage, it's not the kids that affect marriage. It's how you respond to the kids. And so that's something too, we've always had to kind of keep at the forefront of like, okay, we're both, stressed, and that stems from taking care of the kids, but also because of work. So it's like, how can we remove this like situation and just think about why is it we're reacting that way? So that's been helpful, because I think in the beginning it's easy to just be like, oh my gosh, like our life feels so crazy. I'm not sleeping, and every day is, a lot. But then just shifting that mindset kind of has helped. But we still don't want it anymore.
No, I love how you put that, because I feel like reaction is huge. And I feel like there's like so much more information out there now. I mean, maybe just because like I'm in it now, so I'm reading a lot more of the information. But like, 10 years ago when I was having nieces and nephews, and you see certain things happen and you're like, oh, my kid's never going to do this or never do that or whatever. And like you said, they have to learn, like they're learning body awareness. They're learning boundaries. They're learning life, how to function in the world. But the way that we respond to them is huge because yes, there are things you do have to guide your kids in right and wrong. But not everything's like yes or no. Like I feel like as a kid, like my generation growing up, you just heard like no a lot. Like, no, don't do this. No, don't do that. Right.
I feel like that's why a lot of us like are, we grew up with like tough love almost. Like there wasn't the understanding of like, you're sensitive, you're like a different child, or like children have different personalities, I feel like we were all treated just one size fits all, but I'm learning that. So this is also why it's been hard too. So Asher's an extremely sensitive child. And so a highly recommended book that I read was The Highly Sensitive Child. Mm-hmm. And it was so enlightening and so good because it helped us to identify. This was mainly when he was like around 2.5-ish, because that's when they're kind of, just learning their feelings. And, he's very extremely emotional and like sensitive to everything. So not just like your senses, but also just very sensitive to everything. So we learned, the way that he handles discipline is extremely different than our, second one, who's just like, doesn't even care, Right. And so that's also been difficult to kind of navigate because he's 4.5 now and he understands his feelings, but he still can't control like why he feels a certain way. And he'll just cry about everything, like, the wrong plate, or cry about a banana breaking, like when I mean, it's like things I'm like, wow, like I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I'm trying.
Right. And you don't want to, like, it's so easy to be frustrated. Like, it's a banana. It just broke. You're fine. Just eat it. You're
fine. Yeah. But he's like alligator tears. And I'm like, oh, but you know what? So Chris actually, I guess, was similar in the sense of like, he'd be a little particular about if his burrito, broke, he'd like have a meltdown, I guess, when he was little. So I guess like, it comes from someone.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, I think, helpful for Chris then to handle those situations because he'll like empathize more about like, I get it, I get it. But it's still frustrating because you're like spending, 15 minutes talking a banana that broke. This actually happened this morning. That's why. And it's so easy to then just give him a new banana because you're just like, I don't want to deal. I don't know how to handle this situation. So here's your banana. But then, we don't do that often to where I don't want to give in all the time because he will never learn how to overcome those little,
Right. And those are the things that like people don't teach you how to parent. And you're like, wait, how do I handle this situation?
Yeah. I'm just like, wow, it's very, very fascinating is all I can say. Cause he's a very fascinating, smart boy, but yeah, but as I was reading that book, it was very enlightening because, some of it I was like, wow, that was me as a kid, but sensitivity was such a negative thing. And so instead of it being like, what, you are so compassionate and caring and you really care about other people and you're like aware of behaviors of other people. And like, instead of that, it was always like, you're a baby, you're a baby, you're that. And so I grew up feeling like I had to prove a toughness. And if I cried, I was weak. And so it's just interesting to see how it's the response of the parents that can make a huge difference of, if they were like, my parents knew more about just being highly sensitive, they could have maybe pushed it into a positive while helping weed out some of the like particulars, like Asher. So we're trying to encourage his empathy and how he's just so caring. And I always tell him like, God, God made you you're so caring. Like God made you to love people. And so he'll like go around telling people that, which is cute. But then there's the little intricacies of like the banana. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I not make this situation right now a wound for him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. I was a super compassionate kid and I got made fun of a lot. More from the siblings.
Same.
And my cousins. I remember my boy cousins, they would torture me. Like catch a daddy long leg and pull its legs off in front of me. And I would just sit there like bawling. And I know it was so bad. And like every time we drive past roadkill, I would just cry my eyes out. Like my heart broke. Like I was just so sensitive and compassionate. And you do learn like that you have to toughen up. And I feel like it took, like I kind of put a hard shell around myself until my late 20s when I actually met my husband, and he kind of helped me break through some of that and get back to being compassionate, because it's also a hard place to live. Like when you feel everything and you, your heart breaks for everything and everyone.
Yes, and for fun. I mean, it's being an empath too, like taking on other people's feelings or emotions, or like sometimes just being in a room, like you're sensitive to like just everything around you. And I think it's definitely a positive as we're an adult. But I was exactly like you. Yeah. I put a shell up, and then it took going on to the Bachelorette to really break down that shell. And then I was just a faucet of tears, I'm like, I couldn't stop crying. I was like, wow, okay, they got to my inner core. But parenting though, it's different, it's harder. And in our generation, like having a phone is very distracting. And it's, you see what happens when a parent is on a phone and so Chris and I are good about being like, hey, get off your phone. Because we can sense, because they start to act out if they're wanting your attention. And so, we'll get on each other if we're on our phones, but we both work on our phones. Right. Like he's constantly like on call pretty much. And then I'm like, working, but we've learned to kind of separate that and be more intentional when we're with the boys.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's easier to be frustrated with the kids and snap at them when you're distracted.
Oh, 100%. So that's actually, I mean, it's good to have a spouse who can also see those, like we can see those things in each other, because like I will, there's times I'll be like, say I'm on my phone working or doing an email or something. And then, Asher's or someone's trying to ask me something, or they're acting out. And then I get frustrated real quick. Chris will be like, calm down. You're on your phone. And then you have to shift to be like, you're right. I'm mad because I was on my phone, not because what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like your reaction becomes more intense when you're distracted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know. And it's so hard to, like, we're trying to set those habits now, because like a lot of my work's on my phone too, but I need to be better at setting boundaries. So we've been like saying, okay, like at a certain time, we're putting our phones down. And trying to like I'm trying to be better at like, okay, I'm going to set times for when I do Instagram stuff and podcast stuff and whatever. And then try not to just, because instead of being like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, like if I just sit down and be intentional and get stuff done, it's different than being distracted. Because even today, like I went on, it's so stupid. I feel like I'm so distractible. Like I went on Etsy to try to find a gift for somebody, because somebody got me this very thoughtful gift. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I have a friend who would love this, so I wanted to get it for her. Went on Etsy and instead didn't even look up the gift, didn't even find it, created a whole wish list for Jovi's first birthday for the grandparents and like started doing like, and then I got off to like eat lunch and then get ready to podcast. I'm like, that would have taken me 2 minutes to find this gift and to do it. But instead I just spent 30 minutes doing, you know what I mean? It's like, I do that on Instagram all the time too. I'm like, I have to post this thing. And then I'm like, I was just scrolling for 20 minutes and didn't even do what I got on here to do.
Oh my gosh. It's so true. And that is so funny because that's another thing that happens. Like Chris will be like, we're talking about, I don't even know, like look up this. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll look it up. And then I go to look it up and like, a news notification pops up or I'll end up opening Instagram instead. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, you're not even looking it up. I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. Shoot. You're right.
Right.
But his sense of urgency is a lot more intense than mine too. Mm-hmm. So like, it's just his work, he's deadline driven. And so his personality is very much like, if he needs to do something, he will get it done right away. And I'm like, it'll get done today sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Same. But then I'm like, it'll get done today sometime, but then it's like drawn out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have if I just take care of it right away, then it's done. And I don't have to think of, it's not taking up that mental space.
No, or the best is, this is the best and the worst at the same time. I'll like think, I'll think of something I need to do for work or maybe for the boys. And, so I think of it and then I write it down. When really I could have probably got online, did the thing and it would be done.
Right.
But, like, I love, writing lists down. So I'll write it on my list. And then in that 2 minutes that I wrote it down, I could have already
done it,
accomplished it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. That is very true.
That's so funny.
So I would love to talk really quick about Xander's sleep because I feel like normalizing sleep for different kids is very important.
Absolutely.
Because like you said, you tried everything, you tried all these different things. And I feel like that can be really frustrating for parents that are seeing all this information that's like, if your kid's waking up this many times at this age, by basically, like I've seen before too, like by 9 months, they should be sleeping through the night. Well, Jovi does not sleep through the night and she's happy. She's healthy. She's nursing a lot. She's growing. She's like off the growth charts and we're just going with it. Like I'm like, you know what? Yeah. We're going with it. But it can be really frustrating for people who are like, well, my kid's just not a sleeper. And people will be like, well, you just haven't taught them.
Yeah. You're not every time. I mean, he's 2.5. So every time we talk about it, I stop talking about it because people just assume you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, and of course it's like, oh, well, have you tried this? And I'm like, yeah. Like, you don't think I've tried it all? I love my sleep. Like, of course I've tried it all. And I think it needs to be more normalized because sleep training is a man-made thing. That was something that parents created for themselves. Mm-hmm. They created it so that they could sleep, not that their baby could be like perfectly asleep for 12 hours, a night. Like babies still wake up. It's just teaching them how to, go back to sleep themselves. And I've learned that some kids just don't do that because Asher is like a rock, solid sleeper. I mean, he could sleep on a rock literally and be completely content and he would sleep through the night. And that's been helpful, but I think it was because he was so hard as a baby that I think it was just a natural progression of him teaching himself to sleep train because there was nothing we could do. I would rock him for 3 hours. This was mainly the first month, but I would rock him. We would rock for 3 hours, just bouncing up and down, on an athletic ball. And then 3 hours. So from 6 to 9, it would take us 3 hours to get him to even fall asleep. So I think because he was a difficult baby, it was actually easier for him to learn how to fall asleep on his own. And then Xander was the opposite. He slept for 23 hours his first week, every night, just I was like, I had to Google, like, is he sleeping too much, you know? But he was so easy. And then it was easy to breastfeed him. And it was easy. He just was so easy that I think the easiness kind of progressed once he was 1, and it continued because it was just so easy. Like, if I were to breastfeed him, then he'd sleep.
Right.
Maybe not all through the night, but yeah, it was easy to at least get him down is the point. And then I actually don't remember how old he was. He never was great at staying asleep. He never wanted a binky. He still to this day doesn't like stuffed animals. He literally just doesn't like anything that's going to soothe him. Mm-hmm. And so that also was hard because there was just nothing I could do to help him, to like, maybe he just wanted me. So he likes my hair and he plays with my hair. And to this day, he's 2.5 and he still wants to play with my hair. And it's like his binky, it's like his soothing, you know, thing. But I'm like, I've got to sleep too. So I don't know. It needs to be normalized because we tried everything. We tried like a softer type of sleep training where you're like still in the room. And it just, honestly, it maybe helped a little bit, but not near. He still woke up. Mm-hmm. He still woke up because it's just, I think it's just who he is. Mm-hmm. And then even trying it now in the past, like 6 months or 8 months or a year, I don't even know, this whole year's flying. I've tried it. I've tried everything. He was waking up like 2 to 3 times a night during a certain phase. And I just didn't know what to do. I was out of my mind because I wasn't sleeping. And the only thing that would soothe him was like being next to me. And it was so hard. It was so hard because I also need to sleep. And so sometimes I think, I don't know, you got to do what works best for you as a family. And the shaming needs to stop. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so frustrating. But yeah, I wouldn't even talk to people about it after, you know, they'd be like, because there's just that judgment of like, you're just not doing it right. You're not doing it right. A sleep training consultant who was a friend also was like, you know, this always works. So if it doesn't work for your kid, then you're just doing it wrong. And honestly, we tried the whole thing and he still woke up. So I don't know.
Yeah. There isn't a one size fits all though. And that's like, I feel like it's frustrating when people make blanket statements like that for anything. Because there is individualized care, even for our babies. And there's no one size fits all.
No. And like, he still takes a while to go to sleep. Like he still wants to sing and like, I don't know, it's really cute, but yeah, he like Asher will just close his eyes and be like out. Xander just likes, he'll be so tired, ready for bed, but still needs to sing like Itsy Bitsy and then wants to like giggle. And I'm like,
just close your eyes.
Close your eyes. And he still doesn't want to close his eyes sometimes. And he'll just look up at the ceiling. I'm like, oh my gosh, kid, you are so, but he does for the night now. He'll be up occasionally, maybe once, a few times. And but that's where he'll just come into our room. And honestly, I'll just pick him up and let him sleep with us for the few hours in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice sleep.
Yeah, perfect. I know. I mean, I even feel the judgment at 9 months because I feel like, I mean, Jovi still wakes up 2-3 times a night. And normally she just nurses, goes right back to sleep. But lately she's been teething, regression. I don't know what's going on, but it's been horrible. And it's hard because it's like, I want to sometimes say, like, I talk about my motherhood journey online, but then everyone gives opinions, which I guess when you share, you're opening yourself up to that. And it's like, man, every kid's different. Every situation's different. We did do some sleep training, but right now where we're at, I can't, like, I sit her down and she starts screaming and I'm going to pick her back up because that's who we are.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so sad is like, that should be normalized too. Like, I'm not like, we're parents and we want to love our kids. Like if our kids are freaking out and screaming and we're not going to go cuddle them, then they're going to grow up to believe that, you know, they're not supported. They're not like, they're going to, I don't know. It's just, I don't know the psychology of it, but
well, that's the thing too. Like, I feel like I've read so much on both sides and I'm like, who knows? Like, I know people whose kids are sleep trained and they don't seem to have attachment issues. And I know, you know what I mean? Like, and then there's people who never did and their kids sleep fine on their own. Like they never had to be taught or shown, like eventually they just did it themselves too. So it's like, I mean, you really have to figure out what's best for you, what works for you. And sometimes then you can change your mind. You can be like, this isn't working anymore.
I know. And what's funny too is like we as, you know, adults don't always have the same sleep patterns every night. Mm-hmm. You know, we might eat something that upsets us and then we don't sleep well. Yet we expect our children to sleep perfectly every single night as if, you know, they're just little robots. And that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And so that also just, you know, I will be honest, I think just we've become selfish. And so we've become a society that just cares only about what is going to benefit us rather than what's going to benefit our children. And that's unfortunate, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like we've also come a really far way away from how it was like originally kind of set up with even that community and that help. Like, I don't think moms were meant to do it alone. And even though we have amazing husbands and partners, like you said, I mean, she usually breastfeeds and I don't want to pump a bottle so he can feed her. It's just easier for me to just go feed her. So I am the one who's usually getting up more. And, with this last week though, that's been awful. He gets up with her and she snuggles up to him and falls asleep and it's been great, but he can't put her down. We can't put her down. So, but I mean, it's been super helpful, but we weren't meant to just do it alone. You're supposed to have the community. And now it's like you're working, you have different things going on. Like I can't imagine a single mom who has to go back to work, who has to, you know, there's just like so many things that factor into it. But I feel like
that after we have a baby, we're supposed to get our bodies back. We're supposed to be like super like sane and just like doing all the things so perfectly. Yeah. We were meant to have a village. I mean, like they would have aunts and grandmas and women in the community that would come into the, you know, their hut or their tent or whatever. And everyone took care of the baby. Everyone held the baby. Babies were held like 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And now they're not at all. Mm-hmm. They're just put in car seats and rockers and told to just be perfect. And the moms to be perfect. And it's so sad. It's just sad.
We're all trying to figure it out now.
Yeah.
The babies and the parents, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, even for dads, there needs to be a lot more support because they're not as vocal. And I think a lot of times if we could just help the dads voice their frustrations or I don't know. I feel like it's hard for dads and they just don't speak up as much, especially that first year, because the baby does need the mom a lot more. Right. And
yeah. Mm-hmm. I definitely, I get that too. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you about your podcast and then also, are you watching this season of The Bachelorette?
Yeah, I watched last night.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you how you think it's going, all of that. I haven't watched it, so I don't know what questions to ask. I have to be honest, but I feel like I can't have you on without asking about it.
Yeah, no, I actually haven't. I don't usually keep up with seasons at all, but I do like the beginning episodes and then the end episodes. I don't like the drama in between, but no, I like Katie a lot. I think she's definitely confident and knows what she wants. And I think that helps so much in just being forthcoming. You know, I feel like the older the bachelorettes are, the more just confident and more fun it is to watch, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't remember the last season I watched But I just remember there, and no offense to anybody listening who's like really young, because I feel like you can know what you want to, but it just seemed like so much like high school type drama when I was watching it. And I'm like, I just can't.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, so I was 26 when I went on, and I felt at 26, I was like, I'm good. Like I know now, I've been through, breakup. Like I figured out, well, this is what's funny. So I was 26 and I'm like, I know who like the kind of guy I need. I know who I am. But then once you mature and get older, you realize like, there's just so much more. There's just so much more. So that's why I do think that age does matter, regardless of whether you're 20 and think you have it together, or 24, because every year I thought I had it together, And so no, it's fun to look back and be like, wow, how different it would have been.
Mm-hmm. See, I don't think I had it together till I was 30. For sure not. In my 20s, I'm like, no, I am not ready.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So talk to us about your podcast, Heart of Purpose.
Heart of Purpose. Yeah, I have the podcast. It's been a year, and I just talk about faith-based messages and interview, inspiring people. I have my book that's actually launching next week too. So yeah, you can pick that up. It's called The Road to Roses, and it's pretty much just my entire life's journey leading up to the show and then after the show. But I think it gives a lot of context of, what makes me who I am, and kind of some life lessons in there for every season of life, including motherhood. So I do talk about motherhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The craziest hood you'll ever be in.
Yes, totally.
That's what I like to say. I'm like, man, I always just say motherhood's a trip, and they've heard me say it on here all the time because I just feel like it's like so crazy.
I feel like it's never what you expect.
No, but I feel like it's what you need.
Yep, I agree.
Like, not that you need to be a mom, but like life just kind of gives you what you need, and it's like, it's not what you... Right. And it's like not what you expected, but then there's so many life lessons in it too, because you're forced to look at things in your own life, and you're just, even like now, I'm like, who am I as a sleep deprived, crazed person? Like,
I know.
Who is this person? I don't know. It's kind of fun, kind of crazy.
Those sleepless nights, man. I feel for you, especially when they're like, they wake up and then don't want to go back down, and it's like an hour later. Oh my gosh. We also had phases with both boys that both of them at a certain age, I don't even know, maybe 18 months or something, they were up at like 5 every morning, if not earlier, and up like wide-eyed, ready to play. I was like, this is not what I signed up for.
You're like, no.
I know. There were so many times I put on like classical baby lullaby or something and fell back asleep while they watched it. I was like, oh, well, mama's got to do what I'm got to do. Yeah.
There's been a couple times where I basically barricaded with my body. There's like a gap in our living room that she could like crawl through to the other room. Everything else is like gated off. Yeah. But there's a couple times where I've been so exhausted, I put like a pillow and a blanket on the floor, and I lay in that gap and just like make sure her toys are out. And I'm like, all right, if she tries to crawl over me, I'll wake up.
I know.
And I'm like, man, that 30-minute nap refresher.
Oh, yeah, that's so good.
So where can people find and follow you and listen to your podcast at?
Yeah, so you can follow on Instagram at Desiree Siegfried or Heart of Purpose Podcast. You can listen wherever podcasts are streamed, and you can find the book and everything else at DesireeSiegfried.com.
Awesome. And I'll have all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
I love chatting with her. Look out for her podcast, Heart of Purpose. I'm going to be on there as well soon, talking all about doula stuff. And that's something that I'm always get super excited to talk about and share. I know I don't talk too much about it on here, but I love chatting about it. So I've been going on a lot of other podcasts lately, talking about it, and it brings me so much joy. It fuels me. I love my doula work. It's definitely hard right now in this season of life, having a little one at home, having a 10-month-old at home, and figuring out childcare with a husband that works full time, and just trying to figure out how it works with our family right now. So it's definitely hard. But I do love being a part of it. And I love just talking about it and helping empower women in their decision making, and to be educated on their options, and to know that all different forms of birth are valid as long as you feel heard and validated and listened to, and you're a part of your experience and it wasn't just an experience happening to you. So yeah, I'll be on the Heart of Purpose podcast coming out soon. I am excited for some of these episodes coming up. I have Dr. Dan on the podcast soon. I absolutely love chatting with him. He's a parenting expert. He's a psychologist, and I go on his podcast as well, and we just have such a great time. So look out for that episode. Guys, it is over half the year is gone. We're officially past the halfway point. So, that is crazy. 2021 is half over. But yeah, it's flying by. I feel like when you have kids, it's like a weird time warp of slow but fast. Like I feel like I haven't slept in years. Although it's only been almost a year. But then she's getting so big so fast, and it's so crazy. Also, Jovi has blonde, wavy hair and blue eyes. And Vito and I both have straight hair. He was blonde as a kid. There's a lot of blonde on my side of the family. He has green eyes. I have hazel eyes. Lots of blue in my family. And there's only one person in his family that has blue. So she got that recessive trait in there somewhere. But she's so stinking cute and so much fun. And she's going to be 1 soon. And I cannot believe it. Time really does fly. Days are long, then years are short. I feel like the days are short though. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's over already. It's actually the nights are long. The nights are long. The days are short. We've had such a brutal night last night. Oh my gosh. Poor baby. And poor us, honestly. Just poor us. We need sleep too. It's so freaking hard. I feel for all you moms out there. I feel like you just need to hire people for friends so that you can nap. Like, hey, this person's going to come to your house and watch your kids and cook dinner while you nap. And that is a gifting service that you can do for people. Someone needs to start that out. There's a little business idea. Anyways, I am going to try to take a nap today and catch up on a little bit of sleep with Jovi's afternoon nap because it is much needed. All right. Look out for the new episodes coming out. Make sure you subscribe so you stay up to date. Love you guys. Talk to you next week.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing while you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. And then we cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.